following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Christine, and we are on 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm very, very excited about today. It is a topic that's, as any of you who listen to the show know, it's near and dear to my heart. We have Julie Demsey on today, and we are going to be talking about finding love by finding yourself first. So let me tell you a little about Julie. I'm very, very excited. I think I've been trying to get Julie on the show for a while, and she's a very good friend of our very good friend Janice. And I did an episode on Janice's podcast recently. We talked about it when Janice was here, and Julie was on that episode. I think it was called "What Was I Fucking Thinking?" Something like that. Anyway, but Julie Demsey is a rapid results mindset coach. That is interesting to me because I cannot wait to hear what that's about. She is a hypnotherapist and a former Silicon Valley executive turns transformational guide. I want to know about that too, Julie. She's the author of Found, Swiping Right on Me to Find Love. And she's passionate about helping people remove the subconscious box that hold them back, not just in love, but in every area of their life. Through her coaching and hypnotherapy work, Julie empowers her clients to create rapid, lasting change and finally step into the life and love they deserve. And that's the kind of fucking bio I want to hear, Julie. Welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I am so thrilled you're here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Here we go. We're on this path. We're going to go and we're going to see where it takes us. I know a lot of people script their podcasts. No, thank you. I'm a shoot from the hip kind of girl, so why the fuck not?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. First, Julie, I want to hear about this whole rapid results mindset and, hypnotherapist. I love that.
Yeah. So hypnotherapy is all about being able to access the subconscious mind to get to the root cause of issues that are holding us back. And you and I are smart people, right? We could sit here and talk till we're blue in the face. We know the problems we have, but we're not able to shift those. And that's because we're not in our subconscious mind right now. Hypnotherapy allows me to take a client down into access that area. So it actually feels very similar to a conversation we'd be having right now, but with your eyes closed, your conscious mind kind of set aside, so your subconscious mind can pull back out all of that information that is necessary to make that change.
That's wild. I love that. Okay, this might be too much. I am told I'm too much a lot, so I kind of like to go with it. But how would it be if someone ever was to do that, say, live in front of a live audience?
I'd be reticent to do that from the standpoint you don't know what's going to come up. So for me, but it's all about confidentiality, right? So hypnotherapy takes about 2 hours, by the way. So, I mean, we can see if you want to try it and get you in a hypnotic state.
I'm going to have to try this.
Yeah. I mean, the reality of it is I'm very careful about confidentiality because we don't know what's going to come out. And I've had all sorts of things come out with clients. And I don't think that's something somebody would want to experience in front of an audience.
I was curious because I know they do a lot of, hypnotizing, and I'm curious what would come out of my mouth. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
that's an
Well, and
interesting.
it's not, I mean, it's not that surprising from the standpoint of it is something that's within you.
Right.
There are people who've been surprised at what came up for them, because very often it can be a very minor thing that happened to us where somebody snubbed us or said something to us that we don't even remember. It can be something deeper. I've
Mhm.
dealt with some serious trauma. I've heard pretty much all of it. But the beauty of it is how healing it can be. So if we want
I
to bring
love
it
that.
back to dating, right? For example,
Mhm.
I worked with a client, and I'm keeping the confidentiality because there's no names here, but I
Mhm.
worked with a client who was in her 40s, who hadn't had a date since her 20s,
Wow.
early 20s, because
Mhm.
she had hurt so deeply and wasn't able to heal from that hurt.
Wow.
And we were able to go back and capture what that was, reframe it, and allow the mind to start healing and looking at things differently. So that's where the mindset part of it comes in too, right? Because we have all of these cognitive thoughts and beliefs and maybe patterns that we need to
Mhm.
let go of that we don't realize that we have. And
Right.
even just using our own mind and shifting the words that we're saying. So if I'm out there saying there are no good men, my brain is calculating, even when I'm not thinking about it, there are no good men, which means I could be introduced to somebody and I don't even notice them because my brain believes there's no good men,
Agreed.
right?
100%. Mhm.
So if we shift that thought and we say, it only takes one and the perfect man is out there for me, and I
Mhm.
know he's on his way to me and I to him, we
Mhm.
might not believe it in a second. But if we keep saying that to ourselves every day for 30 days, our mind recalculates and starts believing we've created a new neural pathway for that belief.
Love that. Love that. That makes me think back to a time which was my entire life up until, the last couple of years that, I've said it 100 times on this show and I'll keep saying it. I never believed in loving yourself. I just thought it was a bunch of malarkey that, other people loving me was enough, and it wasn't until I got on my healing journey that I started to discover these things. And recently I've been thinking back onto specific times in my life, picturing myself in those moments and realizing that the reason why maybe no, I said that completely wrong. The reason why, not maybe, I wasn't finding the right people in my life is because I didn't respect myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't have moments of clarity where I could be comfortable alone, live life comfortably alone. All those things. I was very uncomfortable alone, ever. Couldn't go out to eat by myself, couldn't do things by myself, couldn't go to the movies by myself. Now I'm a completely different person,
Yeah,
and I I know it was because there were moments in my life, or all those moments in my life, that I didn't love and respect myself. And this is why it's such an important topic for me to have on the show, because I truly believe that we cannot move forward with a partner until we are our own partners.
100%, 100%. And it's interesting you say that about doing things alone, because I ran a workshop with about 15 to 20 women that
Hmm.
were 50 plus
Hmm.
and all starting their dating journey again. And they're like, oh no, I couldn't go anywhere alone.
Hmm.
And I worked with them. I said, okay, who do you go grocery shopping with? Well, I go on my own. Well, you can do things alone, right?
I
So we
hated it, but I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we retrain the brain and say there are actually a lot of things you can do alone, and you do alone. So
Hmm.
let's start small at the grocery store. Just when you're standing in line, talk to one person.
Hmm.
And then you start building up that resilience and the ability. But it comes back to that self love and that self belief. And
Hmm.
so often, what happens, especially, when we've been through it a few times, people are like, oh no, I can't do this. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till that person comes along. And I
Yes.
said, no, 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 no. You need to enjoy your life now.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do to get into that relationship is find that love for yourself, find what lights you up. And
Right.
it's when you're in that space that you're ready and accepting for somebody else to come into your life.
I agree. I do have to say that, I do believe in soulmates, people who are really, travel through different lifetimes together. And I truly believe that. What I now know different than I always believed before is that my soulmate isn't the other half of me, that
Correct.
I am my own soulmate. I am my
Yes.
own whole person, and I have soul connections with other people, which allows me to have fuller, relationships, because I'm not relying on them to fill my vessel. My vessel's full, and
Yes.
they just warm my vessel or add flavor to my vessel, but they don't, what I mean?
Well, one of the worst lines ever, and you see it in a lot of movies,
Oh,
you
yes.
complete me.
Mhm, mhm,
That
mhm.
is such a lie.
It really is.
If you need somebody, if you really truly believe you need somebody to complete you, that
Yes.
means you are not complete and you're
Mhm,
going to be very needy in that relationship. You're not going to show up as your full self,
mhm.
able to be an equal partner.
Yes. That was one of my top 6 things that I wanted to make sure we covered today was dating from wholeness, not from a lack, ness.
Yeah,
That, the healthiest relationships happen to be when both people feel whole on their own because they can complement each other and not one person or the other is carrying the load of the relationship.
100%. However, often, especially females of, my age group and even younger women, I'm still hearing are taught that they need to find somebody to love them.
Yes.
Right. So they
Yes.
worry about, and this goes both ways and for all genders and whatever else, but individuals worry about, do they like me? Do they
Mhm.
want me? And that's
Mhm.
100% the wrong question. The
Exactly.
question should be, do I want them? Are they
Mhm.
worthy of
Mhm.
me?
Mhm.
And when we make that shift is when we can start stepping into healthy relationships. But that took me a long time personally to understand. And that's something I work with a lot of clients on and I talk about in the book.
I love that. No. So one of the things that I think that is important in, finding that love for yourself before we find love in others is you attract what you reflect. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's like if you're expecting a healthy, like fulfilling relationship and you're still treating yourself really shitty and poorly, it's kind of setting the standard for how other people are treating you. You're showing other people this is okay to do to me because I do it to myself.
So get rid of you complete me and move
Mhm.
to I teach people how to treat me
That's
by
great.
showing
That's
them how I,
great.
by showing them how I treat myself.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So when you're talking to people about preparing to find love and you're looking inward and you're finding yourself, what are some of the key points that you think that people need to know from the beginning of how to move forward other than you complete me as a bunch of bullshit and we reflect how we should be how we should be treated.
Well, I think it's really important to kind of sit down and think about what what do I have to offer?
Mm,
And
nice.
what am I looking at for somebody else to offer? And do those line up? So if
Mhm,
I'm looking for someone to provide all of these things that I don't have,
mhm.
I need to find those in myself first before I can
Yeah.
receive those, right? So it's,
Mhm,
I like to say the reason I wrote the book was I want people to become kind, compassionate, and respectful
mhm.
themselves so they can
Yes.
do same thing for others. If we could
Yes.
get everybody out there, the dating pool would be so much better.
Right?
But that's where it starts. It starts from within.
Mhm.
So what do I
I
need to do if I'm not showing up for myself in that way? How do I
mm,
start that, right? So I
mhm.
start thinking about, what are my needs? What are my needs that aren't being fulfilled? What are the
Right.
thoughts that I'm having? If I'm thinking, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I'm not deserving of somebody," or "I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I feel,"
Mhm.
work on change that. Change the words. Catch yourself. The most important thing is to catch the words you're using when you talk to yourself.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think they're not enough,
Yeah,
or
100.
they've been treated like they're not enough. So therefore it becomes a seed in your head that grows, that it's a nasty vine that you have to take out.
Well, and it's something that often propels us to move forward, thinking, "I'm not enough, so I've got to do more and I've got to be more."
Mm,
So when we're younger, that
true.
actually helps us to a certain degree to propel
Mhm.
us forward and to succeed. And then
Mhm.
it gets to the point where it's holding us back because we've got those negative looping thoughts that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not giving enough, I'm not doing whatever it might be. And we've got to go, whoa, 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 stop. Let's listen
Mhm.
to those thoughts. Let's reframe those. Let's look for
Mhm.
proof points. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not good enough. Well, how old are you? And let's write down all the things that you've accomplished in all of the years you've been on the planet. Like I have clients do that and they're just blown away, going, wow, I didn't realize how amazing I am.
That I am.
Right.
Right.
It's because we don't think about that. Like for every compliment somebody gives us,
Mhm.
it, it's overshadowed by 10 things that somebody said negative, right?
Mhm.
We hear all of that, and it takes,
Yes.
10 times as many compliments to let that go. Our brains are naturally, unfortunately, triggered that way, so we need to learn to rewire them, to remember the good things, to think kindly about ourselves, to repeat those positive thoughts, to catch the negative ones, and to shift those.
So I started this podcast about 3.5 years ago, and it was my experiment. Okay, it was my experiment to
Yeah.
see if I could find people to help other people grow in the way that I wanted to grow. And I wanted to implement everything that everybody talked about on my podcast and see if it worked. And that was a really amazing thing for me. And a handful of years ago, I think it's about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, I learned about shit, what's it called? Um breath work.
Oh, yes. I'm going
Okay.
to a workshop on Sunday.
Wow. Okay. So breath work is incredible. And I went into my first breath work not knowing what the actual fuck was going to happen. And I'm glad I didn't know, because it was greater than any expectation that I could have ever done.
Yep.
And I met myself in one of my previous lives, and I
Yep.
saw, a vision of some of the things that happened, and it was incredible. But the most incredible thing that I learned in that first breathwork session is that I listened to the instructor, and the instructor said, look, let happen whatever needs to happen. If you need to scream, cry, shout, nobody else can hear you. You're in the comfort of your home alone, and you're just listening to it, through your phone or whatever,
Yep.
computer, whatever. And I'm doing this, and I realize that I have never been good enough for anybody. I wasn't good enough for my parents. I wasn't good enough for my kids. I wasn't good enough for my husbands. I wasn't good enough for friends. I wasn't ever fucking good enough. And I was losing my mind during this breath work, going, why am I hearing this in my head? Why am I feeling this? And then all of a sudden that shell fucking cracked. And I was like, what? And I realized it just hit me so hard that I'm good enough for me. didn't give a shit anymore if I was good enough for anybody else. I'm fucking good enough for me. And that changed the game for me. And I walk through life, I just not really caring if anybody likes me, if anybody gives a shit, if anybody, the man, wants me. I'm happy. I'm fucking happy.
I
And
love
my joy spills into other people's lives.
Yeah.
And that is much better than trying to make them happy by something I'm doing for them or to them or whatever. It is just my joy is my joy, and it becomes other people's joy. And that is the greatest gift I gave myself right there.
Yay. I love that so much. And let me tell you, like, we've been in conversation, not here, but other places.
Other
for years.
places, yeah.
I can see the difference in you. I
Can
feel
you really?
100%. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a glow up. What happens with self-healing? Okay. When you self-heal, there's a lot of shit that happens. Because when I started self-healing, I started understanding that I was good enough. I'm enough. I'm enough. That was
Yes.
big too.
That's a big one. Say that in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
Every day. I
I'm
am enough. I love myself.
It's amazing, right? But
Yeah.
what else happened is I've always had decent skin. I really have. But I'm a 57-year-old woman who looks 20 years younger than what I am. And some people see me here on camera, and that's fine. In person, I think I'm even better. And my hair grew out. My hair is so soft and shiny and beautiful. And I've been through menopause, and people are like, "What?" And I'm almost 60, and I'm not gray yet. I've got some, but you know what I mean. I lost 30 pounds. I glowed up. And I think that when people find who they are, discover that they're amazing, that they love themselves, these are the things that will happen for you.
100%. We often call that the hypnotherapy facelift.
Love that.
Right? It's the same type of thing where they come out feeling re-energized and they look 10 years younger.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we had talked about is that that glow up. There was a story that I had a couple of people send in some stories for themselves. And
cool.
One woman said that she had an accidental glow up. And it says, she said, I decided to go on a 6-month dating detox. I focused on healing from my ex and started therapy. I joined a pole fitness class, which I want to do, and fell in love. But I fell in love with myself. Ironically, she said, I met my new partner in her last detox weekend because she was glowing from confidence and not looking for anyone but herself. She found somebody.
Amazing.
Right?
What a beautiful story. That's terrific.
I love that. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, it comes from the inside out, 100%. It's so important. And we can all do it. It's accessible to all of us.
It is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we talk about a lot of bullshit on this show. We talk about crazy dating stories, husbands, ex-wives, mental health, our periods, menopause. We talk about all kinds of shit. But when I do bring a guest on such as yourself, I think it's very important that people understand that there are people out there here to help them.
Yes. And that's when I say it's accessible to all of us, it is. And asking for help is strength, not weakness. I'm a coach and I still work with a coach for myself all the time. I said a minute ago, I'm going to a breath work workshop this week because hypnotherapy, I have a hard time getting out of being the therapist. So if I'm trying to have a session for me, I start thinking, I do that differently. So breath work, similar but different. All of these types, you've got to find what works for you and the practitioner who works for you and find somebody who's going to be on your side and help you with that glow up. because it takes a village. We've got to have our team of people around us, whether they're paid professionals, friends, family, whatever, community. We need all of that to make us, to help us become that person that we want to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there is some things that people should keep in mind, that it will help you on your dating journey while you're healing.
Yep.
And healing before hookups, I think, is super important, because unhealed wounds attract chaos. When you've worked through past pain, you choose differently and better. And that, I'm a walking testament to that too.
Yeah.
I
like
expect someone to step up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I say our picker is broken very often, right? We don't pick the right people when we're coming from it out of past wounds, hurts, and traumas. And we tend to repeat that until we work through that on our own. So that's why it's so important, because not only do we feel better about ourselves, but we have better experiences when we get into dating.
Yeah. We were talking about a second ago about, not being able to be alone. I think that solitude versus loneliness is an important factor in, finding peace within yourself, because when you're feeling lonely, it builds like okay. So when you're learning how to be alone, it builds emotional independence. And I think that is just like a really magnetic thing that people can be attracted to.
Yes. And I think we also need to remember, if I look back to the end of my marriage, I've been single for a while by choice, because I haven't met somebody that I feel I want to bring into my life.
Yeah.
And there are moments where I feel lonely and I'd like to have that person, but I am never as lonely as I was when I was in that bad relationship.
Oh my God.
Lonely doesn't happen when you're in the house by yourself always. It can happen when you're with other people. It can happen at a party when you're at the wrong party with the wrong people.
Yes. I have a set of friends that I love. I love this couple. I go to their parties and I hate it. They're the only ones I know everybody pretty much at their parties. I was their wedding planner. I've known them for a long time. And the problem is that I don't know. I can't connect. Something is off there. And when that happens, it can feel really kind of in a lonely state when you're in a place of a bunch of people, and you should be having fun too. It happens. It doesn't mean that, something's wrong with them or something wrong with you. It just means you're in the wrong place.
I'd like to adjust the word should. You said I should be having fun too. And that's not necessarily the case. What we want to be doing is looking at the situation and going, this isn't the right situation for me. And so I'm going to take myself out of this situation and put myself in another one that I'm going to enjoy. I used to go to these dinner parties when I lived in San Francisco that pulled together a bunch of different people. And it was different people every time. And there were some people that were at those like 8 or 10 different dinner parties, the same people that I never met. Right? Because there wasn't that energy that pulled us together. There are others that became best friends. So this happens at work. It happens at play. It happens with potential significant others. There is something within us that brings us together and says, this is the right person in the right situation. And not everybody's going to be that. And that's okay. So if we're in a situation like that, don't punish yourself and say, oh my gosh, I should be having fun because they're having fun. It's like, this isn't my tribe, and that's okay. I'm going to go hang out with my other tribe. And now I know that I love this couple and I'm going to do stuff with just them, not with a whole group of people.
Yeah, I love that. There's, a thing about, romantic love isn't the only love, because a lot of people are on this mission to find romantic love. And I had a couple of things that I wanted to address with that is self-love, community love, friendships, and that those are really powerful and necessary, that, people, should be building their community and their own personal, circle before
Yeah.
I think they start bringing other people into the mix.
Yeah, 100%. I have a group of girlfriends here that, we end the conversation with, love you, and that, like, I think we need to normalize that and bring
I
that
do
in.
too.
We can get those good vibes. Like you said, there's all types of love that are fulfilling in different ways, and we need all of them to be thriving human beings, right? And
Exactly.
that doesn't mean we need to be in a relationship. We need to have that love coming from somewhere, from within,
Right.
and then surrounding us with people and experiences that we love.
True. I love that. I also think one of the last things that I had for this part of it today is, I think that when you start to learn what your worth is, you start to see red flags a little easier, because it like sharpens your intuition. And in the past, when people aren't healthy and they're not loving themselves, they're not liking things, they're overlooking toxic behaviors. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a valid?
I agree with that. And I want to say that as you're healing, as you're coming into yourself, if you find yourself experiencing somebody with those toxic traits, don't punish yourself, because the likelihood is you would have met that person years ago and stayed with them for a year, and now you've gone on 3 dates with them and said, I'm done.
Yes.
So we need to recognize that within ourselves, because often I see that happening with people. They're like, well, I still went out with a jackass, and we went out,
saw it.
blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, but 5 years ago you would have married him. And now you went on 3 dates and said goodbye. So we need to realize and see that progress that we have in ourselves.
Absolutely. That's a great lesson, Julie. Honestly, I think that if anything, people should really try to get that out of this, is because, we do beat ourselves up for we're thinking we're still making the same mistakes, but we're not making the same mistakes because we didn't date them for fucking 5 years and stay with them while they treat us like garbage and gaslit us. That's important to, to know.
Yeah. I think it's also important to realize that in the olden days, I sound like I'm 100, we didn't meet as many people, right? The apps give us exposure to so many more people. So it used to be we'd go on 3 dates, and one of them ended up in, with different people, and one of them ended up in a relationship. And now you go on 100. I'm exaggerating maybe, but you maybe find one or you don't. And the reality of the matter is, it's not that we are not finding love. It's that you're looking for the needle in the haystack, and the haystack used to be that big, and now it's this big, right? So we're getting exposed to so many more people, and the brain goes, oh, there's not somebody for me because all of these people aren't right. And we need to remember that it only takes one, and that because we've been through that many, we're getting rid of that many. And it's just that we have, because of the apps, so much, we have too much exposure. We have too much choice. And you come back to the paradox of choice, and what happens often is you've got so much choice that nobody stacks up to be good enough, because you're always thinking, well, there's going to be somebody who has more of what I want to offer. And at some point to say, I trust myself that I'm in the right place. I know who I am. I know who I want. This is the right person. I'm going to give them a chance. I'm going to be open and vulnerable, and we're going to see where this goes.
I love that. I love that. And that kind of ties in with one of the other stories that this woman sent in. She said that she had a therapy first date. Is the title of her little entry here. She said that after years of failed relationships, she finally did 8 months of therapy before re-entering the dating world. And her first date after therapy, she calmly told the guy what her triggers were, what her boundaries were and what she was looking for. And it turned out that he absolutely loved it. It's not something he had ever experienced before. And now they're married and happy.
Amazing.
Don't
That's
you love that?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I know. I love that
Yeah,
more than anything.
we focus on the wrong things, right? The dating apps should be putting those types of things to match on,
Mhm.
as opposed to how tall you are, whether you have fish in your picture or not, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I think it should say, what are your boundaries?
Yeah.
What is important to you? What are you looking for? Because, a lot of people, cite people. My daughter is oh God, oh God damn it. She's going to hate me for this, but I can't remember what's sign language class. She
Oh, okay.
is
Yep.
really good at this shit. And we talk a lot about, sighted people and unsighted people. And I know quite a few unsighted people, and they lead with who the person is. What do they bring to the relationship, because they can't see them.
Yeah.
And we on our daily basis tend to base what we want on sight, meaning how tall they are, what color hair they have, what color eyes they have, what color skin they have, what their build is, all these things that really are irrelevant to how compatible you are with the person.
And I'll take that a step further. The brain
Great.
likes what's familiar.
Correct.
So we're likely to be attracted to that guy that looks like the shitty ex-boyfriend because it's familiar, and we don't even realize that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Right. And so, like, if I've thought about building a better dating app, and if it would, I'd love to be able to do it, and I've actually worked through how I would do it. And nobody would see pictures. Nobody would be swiping on pictures or people. It would be just what we're talking about. You'd start by talking about, here's how I want to show up. Here's what I'd like a date to be like. Here's what I want a partner to be like, the types of things we'd like to share. And you need to find those commonalities before you get to see what a person looks like. Because then you're going to pick better, right? And I can tell you from my life experience, I've met some absolutely gorgeous men who I've gotten to know, and I'm like, why did I think they were so good looking? And I met some other men I wasn't so sure about. And I get to know them, and all of a sudden I find them handsome. And that's because the personality, how they treat people, all of these things come out and make somebody more attractive. So we've been trained. I've got it. This is on my list of things to research. But we have been trained to think that if we are visually attracted to somebody, it's a good thing, right? And we're trained, especially, men are very visual. I think men are trained to be very visual. I don't think by nature and by birth that is true. I think we hear that often enough and we believe it. But it's hard to get people to say, because I've actually interviewed a lot of people. I've done user case studies to try and find out, and everybody still wants those pictures because that's what we're used to. That's what the dating apps have trained us on.
There is a matchmaking company in LA. They suck so bad. Oh my God, they're so horrible. They're the worst ever, and I'm happy to disclaim that over and over and over and over. If anybody ever wants to know, I'll happily tell them. But it's called the LA Singles. They suck. Well, let me tell you what they do. I thought I would like them. Years ago, I joined them. And I thought I would like them because they did not base everything off of pictures. You weren't allowed to see any pictures before you went on a date with somebody. They were supposed to match you by personality, likes, dislikes, they should have gone deeper. They did not. They went very kind of minimal surface. And every single stupid guy that they sent me on, not every man is stupid, but every fucking one they sent me on was. And there are a lot of dumb women out there, so I'm not, saying one or the other. But it sucked because they didn't really take the time to find out if people were even remotely capable of being attracted to each other on a deeper level, even though they were trying not to do pictures. I would have happily dated half of these men by their looks alone if that's what it came down to. But they were not great for me at all.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
take that into accountability. I do believe that you can love somebody or care for somebody or be attracted to somebody by who they are as a person, and not by their looks. I think too many people are caught up in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to our values. And again, that's starting with ourselves, because if we don't know who our values are or who we are or what we want, and I can't tell you how many women I've worked with who have been wives and moms for so many years that I say, what do you like to do? What would you, they don't even know what they want for breakfast because they're so used to making what everybody else wants. Right. So it comes back to figuring out, what are my values? What do I want? What is important to me? And I love that story you were talking about where this woman was so able to clearly articulate that.
I love it.
And
too.
Guess what? Again, you come back to you're teaching somebody how to treat you by sharing that information. She was open, she was vulnerable, she was clear, she was direct. And that's how she wanted to be treated in return. And boom.
Well, a great thing about that is that oh, Rebel said ESL. Yes, thank you very much. ESL. Oh shit, I forgot what I was going to say. I hate that when I do that.
Say something else.
Right. I don't know. I don't have a clue where the fuck I was going. Anyway, sorry about that. I do think that there's certain things as we grow, as we heal. And I say those two words a lot because when we are finding who we are, when we are discovering that, we are special, we are magical, on those journeys, we can outgrow people.
Yes.
Because people who are in our lives who knew us as the unhealed version don't understand sometimes where you're heading or what's happening. And I think that my youngest daughter sees it, and we have a better relationship than ever, I think. Unfortunately, my two older daughters don't want to take the time to get to know my new version. It's not that I was a bad mom or hurt my kids or beat my kids or were terrible to my kids, but I was unhealed.
Yeah.
So I raised children while I was unhealed, and I was still trying to survive through so much trauma that I didn't know how to raise children properly. So I think that there's a lot of aspects of our life that we're changing and growing for, not just dating. It works with our parents and our children and our friends. And, sometimes we outgrow people. Sometimes we grow into ourselves to be better people for the people in our life.
100%. And when I worked with clients and they do the work, they start seeing the people around them shifting. And they're like, wow, I have a better relationship with all of these people. And then sometimes it's a more difficult relationship because, I'm working with a client now that we were working on business and showing up in that way, but it came back down to setting boundaries and being strong about that. And now there's some tension with his wife. And so we need to work through that because people who are around you who aren't used to having those boundaries tend to push back, right? So then it's worth to say, okay, so let's take that into consideration and show that person loving care instead of getting angry that they're angry without pushing back. So when we learn to rise to that occasion, and we had that conversation, he's like, that's a good point. I'm meeting this with anger instead of with understanding that I didn't have these boundaries before, and they're used to that, and something shifted. And so having that awareness and still being true to ourselves, it's not saying don't hold those boundaries, but it's helping people around us to understand, hey, I've shifted and this is really important to me. So let's talk about how we can make this shift work for both of us.
I love that. I love that. You know, that kind of, I have, we get a lot of responses from women on this show, but we do have a lot of male followers. Thank God. I love that more than anything. But one of our listeners wrote in, and it was so amazing. It really touches on, you know, what we're talking about right now. And the title was The Solo Honeymoon. You know, we always see that the woman in movies and TV go on the solo honeymoon. This is the guy. He said that he planned a destination wedding with his fiance and it never happened. But instead of canceling it, he said, I went alone. I toasted myself at dinner and I journaled every night and I spent time getting to know myself. He said, it was the trip that changed how I saw love. This one's killing me. He said, and 6 months later, he met someone who loved that he had done that. So I think there's just some magic in, you know, taking that time. And I do think that it can be very tricky with people that are already in your life. You know, a lot of, like, all my friends are so amazing. They're like, you know, Christine, you're glowing up and you're happy and you're doing great. And I love that. And then there's people who are now gone from my life. And I'm sad that those people are gone, but I'm really grateful that they were part of my life in some way. And, you know, not everybody's meant forever. And I get that. And once we learn that it's okay to let people go on their own life journeys, that some people aren't meant to be there always, that people flex and flow and come and go, and it's all right.
Yeah, that whole reason, season, or lifetime thing is really true.
Oh, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I love it. It's true that. I just think that a lot of people tend to focus on the negative in life. Yeah. When you talk about divorce, people are like, or relationships, they say, you know, 50% land in divorce. Well, nobody fucking talks about the 50% that doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody is for everybody.
So here's the thing. Out of the 50%, how many of those people are happy on each side, right? That's really what we should be looking at. How are people staying in something because it's good? Are they moving on because they need to work on themselves and attract something different? You know, we're tracking the wrong number. What percent of those people are happy?
Exactly. I agree 100%. You know, and sometimes not everybody is picking correctly. We've talked about the bad picker. And, you know, I just think that it's important to try to go on this journey of healing and self-discovery before we get married, before we get into serious relationships. I think that these are things that we should be teaching our kids how to do. If we are not, then we don't know how to do it. So I'm trying very hard to teach my daughter by example and by, you know, talking to her about, you know, what's important. And I hope that is, you know, coming across to her, but it's not an easy thing.
It's not, but it's worthwhile.
It really is. It really is. We are almost out of time. I think that, you know, what you do is incredible, Julie. I think that you're a beautiful, incredible human being inside and out. For anybody who is needing to discover who they are and maybe wants to figure out if they are on the right path in their life for themselves, Julie is the person to talk to. It's very easy to reach her. Julie Demsey, DEMSEY.com. JULIEDEMSEY.com. Reach out to Julie. She's incredible. She's also on IG under her name as well. Julie, we love you here. You're amazing. I don't want to wait this long again to have you back. I'd like to
Okay.
have you back sooner than later. Let's come together and talk about another topic, and and do that, because you're an incredible woman. Thank you, everybody who comes every week and joins us. We appreciate all of our new and longtime listeners. And we will be back again, same time next week, same place. And until then, hang tight, Julie. I'd love to talk to you after the show for a second. And until then, let's just keep this shit real. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.